At 8:45 in the morning, the deadliest terrorist attack in modern history was already unstoppable. Thousands of people didn't know it yet, but their fate was sealed. New York City was waking up. Offices were filling. Phones were ringing. Coffee was still warm. It felt like an ordinary Tuesday, and that's what made it terrifying, because in just a few seconds, the world would split into before and after. This is the story of September 11, 2001. That morning, people arrived at the World Trade Center the same way they always had. Swiping badges, riding elevators, thinking about meetings, deadlines, lunch plans. Two towers stood over the skyline, symbols of routine, power, and certainty. At the same time, 4 commercial airplanes lifted off from airports on the East Coast of the United States. On board were ordinary people, business travelers, parents, students. None of them knew. Their planes had already been hijacked. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower. The impact was instant. Fire tore through steel. Glass exploded outward. Smoke rose into the sky. At first, many believed it was a tragic accident. Inside the building, it was already a nightmare. Hundreds of people were trapped. Above the impact zone, stairwells were destroyed. Elevators were gone. Heat and smoke filled the floors. Some called loved ones. Some searched for a way down. Some stood at windows, realizing there might be no escape. 17 minutes later, any doubt vanished. At 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 slammed into the South Tower, live on television. The world watched in silence. This was not an accident. This was an attack. Inside the towers, firefighters and emergency workers ran toward the danger, climbing endless stairs, carrying heavy equipment. Knowing there was a chance, they would never come back. Many of them didn't. At 9:37 a.m., a third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon. The attack was no longer just against civilians. It was against the nation itself. Meanwhile, on board United Airlines Flight 93, passengers were learning the truth. Through phone calls, they heard what had already happened. They understood what their plane was meant to become. Some said goodbye. Some prayed. Then they made a decision. They fought back. At 10:03 a.m., the plane crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. Everyone on board was killed, but because of their courage, many lives on the ground were saved. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. Less than 30 minutes later, at 10:28 a.m., the North Tower followed. 2 massive skyscrapers, once symbols of strength, turned into dust and silence. The skyline of New York was gone. Nearly 3,000 innocent people lost their lives that day. Thousands more were injured. Families waited for loved ones who would never come home. The attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda, an extremist terrorist organization led by Osama bin Laden. But what followed didn't just change America. It changed the world. In the days after, time seemed to slow. Cities mourned together. Flags were lowered. Strangers hugged strangers. The United States launched the War on Terror. Airport security changed forever. Surveillance expanded. Fear quietly became part of everyday life. 10 years later, in 2011, Osama bin Laden was killed. But by then, the damage was already done. September 11th was not just an attack on buildings. It was an attack on humanity. And yet, in the darkest hours, something else appeared. Courage in first responders, strength in ordinary people, unity in shared grief. We remember 9/11 not to live in fear, but to honor those who never came home, and to ask ourselves a harder question. Did the world truly learn anything? Or are we still waiting for the next moment that divides time again? But by then, the damage was already done. September 11th was not just an attack on buildings. It was an attack on humanity. And yet, in the darkest hours, something else appeared. Courage in first responders, strength in ordinary people, unity in shared grief. We remember 9/11 not to live in fear, but to honor those who never came home, and to ask ourselves a harder question. Did the world truly learn anything? Or are we still waiting for the next moment that divides time again?